So welcome to your International Students Welcome. My name is Kate. I am the admissions officer. You would have all corresponded with me or spoken to me over the phone over the last few months, getting your CAS, getting your visas, coming here. So you're very welcome. And today we're going to have a lot to talk about. We're going to have a Q&A at the end, but feel free to just ask questions, okay? Anytime you feel like it. So this is what we'll talk about. We'll talk about the administration within the school, and in particular, how it relates to your student visa and our compliance duties to the UKVI. The welcome, I'll give you a bit of background on the school, just a tiny bit, because you have more welcome after this. Information about immigration and studying in the UK, as well as other useful things for yourselves. So this is what the school looks like. It's 9 institutes and now 2 centers. They're based in different buildings. Some of them are here in Senate House on the 2nd floor, and some have their own buildings like the Warwick and the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, and IHR is in the South block of Senate House. So they're not all here, they don't all teach. The Institute of Philosophy rarely recruits students. They have other research that they do. Some institutes only do research supervision, and some of the master's degrees as well. So you are a variety of students in a variety of institutes, but one of them should be on the screen right now, where you are studying. So registry is located on the 2nd floor of Stewart House, which is the building adjacent to Senate House. If you have any breaks, please do come visit so you familiarize yourself with it. We have an open door policy. Any break day between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. there's someone in the office, unless we're terribly sick, then the office is closed. But this is where you would come to get advice, pick up tax letters, bank letters, student status letters if you wanted them printed, and submit coursework, although most of the coursework now is submitted online. But if you had to submit something in person, that's where you would come. And that's where you'll find the registry team who will be introduced to you later on. So the key days is this induction day, and then research students will have 2 more induction days, research degrees training on Monday and Tuesday next week. Highly recommend attending for research students. Let's move on to immigration and studying in the UK. So, what does it mean to be an international student in the UK, to be on a student visa? This is the information we will keep about you, and we have to keep this for a certain amount of time. So, a copy of your passport, your sticker, visa, and your passport if you have one, biometric residence permit, we'll talk about this later. And now keeping the decision letters as well, and I'll explain in a bit why that is. Your current address and the one overseas, so we need you to keep us up to date with that. If you move home while you're studying, you need to come and let us know or update your own record, which you can by looking back in and updating your address. Phone number and email, somewhere where we can reach you, and any major changes in your life, like if you get married, or if you have a child, you get cancer, God forbid. Those are all things that we would sort of keep on file for us. This is what we're obliged to tell the UKVI, whether we like it or not. If you don't attend this induction, if you don't attend the first day of your program, or if you miss 10 contact points, I'll talk about this in a bit. If you stop studying for any reason, you need to tell them. If you withdraw from your program, if the length of your program changes, so let's say you're a research student and you finish in 3 years, but your visa sponsorship is for 4, we would need to let them know. Or if we find out that you're in breach of your visa conditions, so if we come to know that you're working full-time instead of part-time, we're obligated to tell them. It's not an option for us. Miscontact is not turning up for lectures, tutorials, not turning up for an assessment, an exam, not meeting your tutor or your supervisor as agreed, not completing your research degree student progress report, which is on a monthly basis, not handing in work as arranged for master students, and not turning up for any field trip, training seminar, or other event as expected. So if it's part of your program, it's compulsory, and missing it is a miscontact one. At 10 contact points, we're obliged to report you as having as missing, basically. Not to the police, but to the UKVI, we have to withdraw sponsorship. This rarely happens. I mean, 10 contact points could happen over 10 weeks. Really, it can happen over 5 weeks. At the Warburg, it can happen over 2 weeks. So it depends on how frequent your classes are, how frequent your meetings are, if you're a research student or if you're a master's student. But generally, if someone disappears, we should be advised way sooner than 10 contact points, and we'll reach out to you to say what's going on, why you're not attending. So please tell us if you're going on holiday during term time, and we'll talk about what term time is for master's students versus research students. If you're ill, and if you're ill for more than 5 days, then you'll need a medical certificate from your doctor. If you're thinking about withdrawing for whatever reason, please come speak to us. Or if you have any problems which prevent you from attending the program, there's a lot of support available should that ever happen. I know we're all giddy and we're all excited to get our program started, but it might be a long journey. So, biometric residence permits or BRPs, not all of you will have them. Anyone that's an EEA national will not have this. Anyone that's a non-EEA national but on a student visa will receive a biometric residence permit valid until the end of December this year, which is pretty nonsensical, but we are in a transition period from paper visas and BRPs to e-visas and the digital immigration system. So if you applied from the outside, you will have gotten a sticker in your passport that is valid for 90 days. If you were a non-EEA national and if you were an EEA national, your visa will have been digital from the beginning. So you will have just scanned your passport and it should have let you in at the border without needing to speak to anyone. So you'll need you obviously won't travel here, but you will need to take your passports and your visas to the post office to collect your biometric residence permits. Don't forget to take that. And please do collect it because you might get penalized if you don't. This is what the biometric residence permit normally looks like in the sticker visa. If your visa doesn't look like this, then there's something wrong. So the e-visas, like I said, from the 1st of January 2025, you will all have e-visas. In the background, even though you have a sticker in your passport and you don't have a card until the end of December, you already have an e-visa online. And these visas will be shown via share codes. And a share code is something you generate online from the gov.uk website. So if a landlord or a bank or an employer wants to see your immigration permission, you provide them with a share code, and then it's their job to go online and verify it. Yeah. There's different criteria that you select on the system where you generate these share codes, depending on who you're generating it for. So that's the link to the website where you can generate it. Everything gov.uk is official, it's government. So, once you've arrived, here are some changes that should be reported and to. First of all, us. So if anything changes, please let us know by email. Let the Home Office know if any changes occur, like if you move house or something major changes. Because there's a different form for people who have BRPs, but it's unlikely that in the first 3 months anything major will happen. If that does happen, please come see me and I'll help you fill in the relevant form. But the new e-visas any changes reported will have to go into your UKVI account, which is where you apply. So you created an account, a login to then apply for a student visa. If you get a new passport, for example, while you're studying, it's very important to update the passport number so that your e-visa is attached to your new passport. Otherwise, you might get caught out at the border using your new passport, which isn't linked to your visa. So things like home addresses, marital status, other changes, having children, passport changes, these are the things that should be and can be reported to the UKVI. And if you have a financial sponsor, depending on the agreement you have with them, you may be obligated to report changes to them as well. Okay, back to biometric residence permits. If your BRP is lost or stolen, report it to us. report it to the Home Office. And if you lose it in between now and the end of December, on a holiday outside the UK, then you cannot get a new one because you can only get biometric residence permits inside the UK. You will have to apply for a visa instead to return to the UK, and then reapply for a replacement BRP. So if you're not traveling between now and the end of December, then nothing to worry about. The UK Council for International Student Affairs is a non-profit organization that helps international students navigate life in the UK, navigate the immigration rules. Whenever new changes come in, they're kind of a watchdog where they point out nonsensical things. There's a lot of useful advice on their website. They're independent and they're available to anyone. They have a helpline, an advice line, Monday to Friday between 1 and 4 p.m. Again, I will send this presentation to everyone in a PDF format, so you don't have to worry about links and things of that nature. But yeah, do have a look on their website to see if you have any questions specifically, or even if you have disputes with SAS, you can turn to them for advice. Now, moving on to working. So most students can work up to 20 hours per week. Full-time students can work up to 20 hours per week. Part-time students who are sponsored on visas, which is not something University of London does, but they don't have rights to it. You need to check your sticker in your passport, your decision letter for these permissions, and make sure that it says something along the lines of worked 20 hours or something along those lines. If it doesn't say that, or if it says less than that, if it says 10 hours, then it's a mistake and you need to get that corrected. But until such correction comes through, you have to stick to what is there. Yes, if it says 10 hours, you're limited to 10 hours, unfortunately, until they correct it. Or if it says no work permitted, then you cannot work until they correct it. So with the new e-visa system, when I verify your visas, I cannot see any notes of such. I cannot see whether you're allowed to work 10 hours or 20 hours. So that's why I'm asking for the decision letters, but in essence, I'm putting the onus on you to make sure that you check what your permissions are, and if it just says as per student visa regulations, then you just refer to the student visa regulations at the time, which state 20 hours currently. So if any of you have any errors on your visas, such as an incorrect end date or work permission is incorrect, come see me. You should have an extra 4 months after your course end date. So if your course ends in September, then your visa should end in January. So that those 4 months are granted to students to put their affairs in order, to apply for new courses or a different immigration visa if they want to remain in the UK. Okay, so moving on to healthcare. The UK has a national healthcare system, which may or may not be familiar depending on where you come from. You've all paid an immigration health surcharge. That's what that is for. It's for you to have access to a GP, to have access to emergency medical care, to basic testing, to get basic referrals. You wouldn't be able to use it for dentistry or elective surgery or cosmetic surgery. These are not covered for anyone. But basic healthcare is covered with the immigration health surcharge. So make sure you keep your IHS reference number handy when you go to sign up with the GP or general practitioner. There are 3 around the Senate House building if you live in student housing, and these are Culver Street Practice, Museum Practice, and Brunswick Medical Center. If you don't live near Senate House, then just use the NHS.uk website, pop in your postcode, and it will give you the GPs around your area, the nearest ones. I would highly recommend shopping around a little bit, not too long, but a little bit. Check the reviews of the surgeries, check ratings around, and if you have family members that are on specific GPs, just ask them, is this a good GP? Because oftentimes they have too many patients and getting an appointment is difficult. So try and pick the best one that you can in your local area if you decide to go for one near the area. But it's very important that you get a GP because a GP can refer you out when you need it. Yeah. Okay, so life-threatening emergencies, you should go to your nearest big hospital, and they all have an accident and emergency section in most Dutch hospitals. For minor illnesses and injuries, you can go to a walk-in clinic. No appointment necessary. Sometimes large hospitals will have an urgent care center, which is the same thing, and that's kind of attached to the emergency room, but it's like an urgent care center with GPs that you can have access to. Pharmacies can also give you advice on minor ailments, like, oh, I have this rash, what can you give me? They can recommend things for you to buy. And the NHS has a free phone line where if you're not sure what's going on with you and you just want some advice or you want a second opinion, you can ring them up and they'll sort of walk you through a series of questions. Some may seem irrelevant, but just answer them and they will tell you what to do. They'll tell you, oh, we recommend you go to see your GP whenever you can, or they book you an appointment, or they send you to A&E. So these are usually their or they send an ambulance to your house if that's what they deem necessary. So that's a free service. You just dial 111 on any UK mobile phone and you get it. Emergency services in the UK, the main line number is 999. That is connected to a dispatch, and they ask you police, ambulance, or fire brigade. So don't make the mistake that I made, where I had to call 999, and when I started saying my spiel as to why I need someone, and they're like, oh no, police, ambulance, or fire brigade. So you have to tell them which one you need. There's a non-emergency phone line for the police, which is 101, and this is not free. This costs 15 pence per call, so you can be on the phone for 6 seconds or 6 hours. It's still 15 pence, but it is there is a cost to it. So anything that's non-emergent, for example, if your car's been stolen or your property's been damaged or there's drug use going on in your area, or you just want advice, call 101 instead of 999. Right, so this is a new section for me. I don't usually talk about this during this presentation, but I thought I'd sort of draw your attention to mental health and emotional well-being during your studies. There is a presentation done by our well-being team, Katie Wood in specific, who's lovely. And I just want to draw your attention to the resources we have both on the website as well as within the school. We have a dedicated well-being team who are separate, independent from the rest of the registry, and they deal with support for our disabled student body, as well as any kind of counseling that our students may need. It's free, it's confidential. You're welcome to use it at any time. You can declare a disability at any point during your registration, and we will help you just reach out. Yeah. And also, it's very important that you get a GP because the well-being team can help you get referral to NHS-funded counseling with like a psychologist via your GP. But they can only do that if you have a GP. So again, please find a GP and register as soon as possible. Okay, now you need a UK bank account, obviously. So to open a UK bank account, you will need a photographic ID, such as a passport or a national identity card, proof of your UK address. If you don't have a tenancy agreement or something along those lines, then request a bank letter from the registry. But if you have a signed tenancy agreement, then just as well is your proof of address, or you can also use utility bills such as gas, electric, or water. But you wouldn't have that at this stage. So just request a bank letter. And evidence of your permission to stay in the UK, I would recommend just using share codes from the beginning, because those of you that have BRPs will only have them valid until the end of December, whereas the share code will provide the banks access to the full length of your visa that's available. Yeah? So just provide the bank the share code. So the way you open a bank account is you would have to first pick a bank, make an appointment with a a branch manager, then get a letter from us, give us the address of the bank, we'll provide you with a letter that will prove your address and that you're a student, and then take your passport and the letter and the share code with you to your appointment. Some banks will tell you to open up special student accounts with extra rates and, account fees. Don't fall for that, please. Just go and say, I just want a simple cash card account. I don't need no credit building in the UK. I just want to be able to go into the shop and buy stuff. Yeah, because those accounts that they try and open to you, you will likely pay for them, and most UK accounts are free. But if you get something just for everyday transactions that doesn't build a credit history in the UK, which you don't need as a student, those are free and they're much more flexible. And you're much more likely to get them than an account that builds credit. Of course, if you have long-term plans in the UK and you want to build a credit, then go to a serious bank and try and convince them to give you one. Not that it's impossible, it's not impossible. Right. The letter request form is on the website, on our website. It's in your student handbooks. I think there's even information about it on the virtual learning environment. But if you still can't find it, just drop me an email and I'll point you in the right direction. So, studying in London, welcome to London. Senate House houses one of the biggest libraries in London, with over 3 million books in the Senate House Library, which starts from the 4th floor of this building all the way up to the 19th floor. I've had the privilege of being able to go on top of Senate House, on top of the tower, which was an experience, but not so much a view. But yeah, as staff, we got to, before the pandemic, we got to go up there. So I can say I've been on top of Senate House. Bloom Senate House, which I believe is being renovated right now, is on the lower ground floor of Senate House, and this has study facilities, it has a cafe, it has like relaxed spaces for you to relax. And there's a little video here about Bloom, but I am not sure if this is going to work. It doesn't. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so this is just a student talking about why they like to be in Bloom, but this video doesn't seem to want to work. So do check it out. Once you have your student ID card, you should be able to just use that to get in. So, moving on to personal safety, Britain is a well-ordered and safe country, despite what you may have heard. London is also very safe. The most common crime is pickpocketing. So when you're in central London, specifically on the train or in crowded areas, make sure that you know where your phone is, you know where your wallet is, where your purse is. And that's pretty much it. And if you're out on the street and you see someone with a moped approaching, then put your phone away. Crime does occur, obviously, it's a big city, but serious crime is rare, so it's very unlikely that you get stabbed. I've been living here for close to 15 years. Nothing's ever happened to me. If you want to get advice on personal safety, the City of London Police has a dedicated website for this. You can just go online and have a look. Okay, how do you get around this big city? The tube, as we like to call it, the London Underground. It's the fastest way to get from point A to point B, if we're being honest. There's zones to it, so where we are now is zone 1, or central London. Around it is zone 2, around it is zone 3, zone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think all the way up to 9 in some parts of London. So you might want to check where you're living, what zone that is. You can get a 30% discount on all travel cards from Transport for London. There's a fee for the application for such photo card. I think it's £25, around there. Don't quote me on that. But that is only for travel cards. So if you know you're coming to Senate House every day, or at least 5 times a day, and you need a ticket from Zone 3 into Central London, into Zone 1, then it's worth buying a travel card because it's a lot cheaper than pay as you go. If you know you're not coming that frequently, then it will not give you any discounts for pay as you go. So it's not worth getting the Oyster. There's also discounts for rail cards, which if you want to travel up and down the country in your off time, might be worth getting. So you need to get a paper form from the rail station and fill that in and bring it in, because we have to sign and stamp it. You also have to pay for that, but I think that will give you much more of a discount than if you're just using pay as you go inside London zones. Buses and night buses are also an effective way of getting around, especially for short distances. Night bus drivers will tend to think that they're in GTA 5, so be prepared if you're out on the town late at night, you will have to hang on to your hands getting home. But there really isn't a place you can't get to with a night bus in London, so you can always plan ahead. TfL.gov.uk has a route planner that you can use. You can cycle and use the Santander cycle hire or Boris bikes, as we like them. These were named after Boris Johnson, who used to be your mayor before he became Prime Minister. And you can walk, because oftentimes in central London, it's quicker to walk from one station to another than it is to go in, go down, get on the train, get off the train, come back up. It takes much longer than if you just walk it. And try and make the most of why you're here. We know it's going to get busy. It might feel lonelier if you're coming from an undergraduate degree where you're a big cohort, and you're going into a master's degree, or an even lonelier PhD. So try and make the most of being in London. Use your time to visit Europe as well if you wanted to. There's a lot going on around Bloomsbury. So if you're interested in books, Centre House Library and other University of London libraries, as well as the British Library are all around. The British Museum is right across the road. That's a whole day event. And you can visit Time Out magazine to see any fun activities. And these are usually printed magazines that are available outside the tube stations. But they have all sorts of offers, and this bar does this and that bar does that. So, if you want something fun, then we recommend you go and have a look over there. And that's all I have to say today. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we discussed, or visas, or in general? Sure. Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
Valeria from Mexico.
From Mexico. Okay.
Good day. I forgot about the GP part, like where do we have to register?
So you have to find a GP practice. They're usually either in health centers, or if they're smaller, then they might be in a house converted into a GP service. So you just go online onto the NHS website and you go to find a GP. You put in your postcode. A lot of things in the UK are done by postcode, so make sure you know your postcode. You put in your postcode and it will give you a list of GPs that are available within like a 3-4 mile radius. And then it would be up to you to go and check those out individually, have a read of the reviews, see what people are saying about the service that they're getting, and pick them. And then I would recommend calling them up and asking them what the catchment area is. A catchment area is a list of postcodes where they will take patients from. So if you're outside of their postcode area, they will not take you. Yeah. But the ones that are around Standard House, if you live around here in student accommodation, will take you because you're within the catchment area. It just depends on where you're living. If you need help, then just book an appointment with me and we'll do it together, okay?
I just got a question about bank accounts. Is it mandatory or is it just advisable?
It's advisable if you want to live in the UK, because when you go to the shops, I mean, you can use your overseas card as well if they don't charge you. There's no reason why you couldn't. But if you were to get a job, for instance, your employer would expect you to have a UK account. They wouldn't transfer money into your overseas account. So it's better if you just get one. Yeah.
For those of us that have a BRP as well as an e-visa, as long as we just give you the e-visa share code, we don't need to send like a scan of our BRP as well.
Yes, you do.
You would do, okay.
Yeah, so, it's a strange transitional period where I'm asking a lot of those students that have both, but I do need to keep a copy of it, and how many of you have heard of the Windrush scandal? The Windrush? Okay, so, yeah, of course you have, because you're from Barbados, and most of the people affected were from the Caribbean. The truth is, the UKVI don't have a good track record of record keeping. And while Ms. Theresa May was in the Home Office before she became Prime Minister for a very brief period, she had ordered the destruction of some immigration records for people who came in on a ship called the Windrush. So they were the Windrush generation. They were all from the islands, Caribbean islands. And this resulted in people being unable to prove their right to be here. People who lived here 30, 40, 50 years even were affected by this deeply. So for this reason, I am collecting every single paper document you have. And I understand personally and professionally, I understand the need to move on with the times and stop using paper stuff and move on to digital visas. But these systems are flimsy. They rely on internet connection. They rely on the Home Office maintaining it. They can be hacked. They can be altered. Anything can happen. So for that reason, I would personally recommend that you keep your decision letter safe, because that's another evidence of the full length of your permission to stay in the UK. And we keep a copy, so if you ever find yourself in a position where you need it, you can always come to us, and we should have it for at least 6 years after you graduate. So it's not to say that they're not trustworthy or that they would deliberately sabotage anybody. No one says that, nor should I say that, because I might just get sacked. But to be very honest with you, there's been instances throughout history where they have destroyed records and then said, oops, sorry.
So just send photos of the BRP then?
Yes. Definitely send me a photo of the BRP and keep one for yourself as well. When your BRPs expire, I believe you have to cut it in half and send it back to them. You're not supposed to keep it. There should be instructions in your decision letter. Again, I know it's a 6-page letter, but please do read it, because everything in there is very important. I would recommend scan it and send a copy to your sister and your uncle and your mom, just so you have it in your outbox as well, as a way of keeping it there. Let's hope that nothing bad will happen. It's all new, but I would recommend that you guys have a backup until we know that this e-visa system works as it was intended. Any other questions? Yes?
So in terms of traveling and an immigration at the border control, would it be, since you can't have, so say you couldn't go through an e-gate or there isn't an e-gate, when you go talk to the border control, would it be they just pull up your e-visa instead of showing your BRP card?
So at the border, this is just based on my knowledge of borders. I don't work for Border Force, so I can't be 100% sure. But if you have a passport with a chip, you should be able to go through the e-gates rather than being forced to speak to someone at the border. If the e-gates stop you, then you get put into the second queue and you have to speak to someone. And oftentimes, as if they flag up something, right? They will stop you using the e-gates as well. But if you have the e-visa, you shouldn't need to do anything other than make sure that it's attached to your current passport. And you do that by updating the UKVI account that you have created. So again, log in for that, keep them safe, and make sure it's all up to date and you have the right details. But you shouldn't have to, did anyone with that's a non-EA national, have to speak to a border agent before they were allowed to come in, right? So everyone used an e-gate, yeah, because you already had e-visas attached to your passports. Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Yes?
And to find a job for, what do you say, for middle term
Mhm.
time, do you have like a platform for students to have jobs?
We have the University of London has a careers service. They will have a presentation
Oh yeah, they have one today, right?
from 3:10 past 3, and it will be Rosie Barber, I think, that will speak to you about the career service, so you can access that as a University of London student, and they will help you with CV writing and tell you what kind of jobs you're most likely to get if you're applying for. So I forgot to mention what term time is. So for master students, we have the term dates on the SAS website. You should check it. When it's not term time, you're allowed to work full time. So that's up to 40 hours a week. When it is term time, then you're limited to 20 hours. For research students don't really have a term time and a non-term time. Research students only have study time and holidays and official closure dates, so Christmas, Easter, whenever we're closed. And the rest of the year, you're supposed to be intern, meaning you're limited to 20 hours a week. When master students come to the end of their teaching, which is around June, July, classes per se stop, but then you're writing your dissertation in the summer, that is still term time. That is, even though there's no classroom-based teaching anymore, it is still term time. You're supposed to work on your dissertation. Once you submit your dissertation, then you're formally done and just awaiting results. Then you can resume working full-time. And then once your course finishes, so past, let's say if you're a master's student, past the 30th of September next year, you have that 4 months extra left on your visa. Again, you're allowed to work full-time all the way until you leave the UK. Make sense? If you're not sure, ask me. Okay? Are we there for time?
5 minutes?
5 minutes. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, wrap it.
No? Okay. Well, have 5 minutes, have a drink of water, some more tea. If there still is something outside, then you'll find me at admissions@sas.ac.uk. My phone number, you should know it by now, and I'm usually in twice a week in the registry office. So just ask me which days, I'll tell you, and now we can have face-to-face meetings as well if you need anything else. Okay? Thank you so much for your time.